Have you ever met someone who didn't just teach you something, but reflected back who you were capable of becoming? Mentors are not just guides, they are mirrors for possibility. And in this series that we are having for Women's March Month on the mentors that made me, this very special series is where I wanted to honor the leaders, the teachers, the wisdom keepers that have actually shaped my leadership over the years, who have helped my identity and who have helped me become the woman that I am. If you have ever outgrown a version of yourself, if you have ever craved deeper embodiment in your leadership, if you have wanted a practice that anchors you into self responsibility instead of self blame, then this conversation with my longtime mentor and friend, Christy Lynn Hicks, is going to feel like a homecoming. Because before Crown Yourself was a brand, before I was coaching sovereign leaders, I actually taught a few Pilates classes at Yoga Blend in California, which was Christy's yoga studio. And I learned so much. And since Yoga Blend has since closed, and she has now opened up Elevation Central, which is more than just a studio. It is a container of conscious leadership curation through yoga, through Reiki, through retreats. Christy opened me up to introducing yoga as a technology, breath as a way of life. And to give just a little personal story, Christy was actually, it was her yoga class that invited me to take one of the best breaths of my life that allowed me to leave my first marriage. And it is through that I want to welcome Christy Lynn Hicks, the founder of Elevation Central in Mount Juliet, Tennessee, and the creator of Yoga for Responsibility. Welcome.
Thank you, Kimberly. It's so good to be here. It's so wonderful to see what you've been doing, and I'm just so grateful to be a part of it.
So let's dive in because honestly, your classes and the way you think about yoga unlocked something for me in learning about gentleness in practice and being aware that it's not about the poses, it's not about just this physical 3D reality that we have. You have a way of teaching yoga that brings the soul, the spirit, your emotions, everything to the table to be fully present in all the planes of existence.
Yeah, and it was a journey when I first started 30 years ago, which is wild. Like, it's been officially over 30 years now. I'm like, how's that even possible? I feel like a child. When I first started, it was very form based. I mean, I was so like, the fact that this was my forearm was a shock to me, like just knowing my own body. But as I started diving deeper and I dealt with illness and things like that, I had to really reevaluate how I was practicing. And that's when the gentle therapeutic approach really it saved me. And when I started studying the sutras and diving deeper into the mindfulness, the meditation, the pranayama, because I couldn't physically do a lot, it opened up all these gateways for me to really understand that yoga is an essence-based practice. And you even said it, like the soul or the spirit. It's an essence-based practice because form is always changing. And if we're always trying to get form to stay the same, we'll suffer. But if we tap into the essence, then we can get into that place beyond what is always changing. So yeah, the essence-based is how I approach the practice and what changed my life and helped me heal. And what really Yoga Blend, if you remember, like we had a huge, gentle therapeutic population. That was our sort of main daily, most loyal, most consistent population that we had was people were really seeing that I don't have to look a certain way. I don't have to do a pose a certain way to get the benefits of yoga.
Now, you've been an entrepreneur for a long time, and I'm curious as to what practices and principles of yoga have you found best served on your entrepreneurial journey?
Oh gosh, so many of them. A big one of them was when I opened Yoga Blend. So let's say 26 years ago. What? Oh, 21 years ago, 2005. So I've been an entrepreneur for 21 years. And a big part of it, I was like, okay, if I'm leaving corporate and I'm getting out of the traditional, like Monday through Friday, 2 weeks vacation a year, that as much as I want it, I will not let the business outshine the yoga. Like,
Mm.
the yoga had to come first for me because that's why I was getting out of it. And as an entrepreneur, I mean, I've worked harder as an entrepreneur than I ever did in corporate, but it's so much more fulfilling. It's so much more satisfying. And so really the principles that I vowed to stand by were honesty and kindness and non-hoarding, just being really generous with what I was learning and with the community to do my best. That's why we call it a practice, because whatever it is, we've got to practice it, whether it's entrepreneurship or it's a yoga pose or it's singing or it's being kind or it's being honest or it's holding a boundary. Like, those things are practices. And so the philosophy was really shaping me as it was shaping the business. And I was able to continue to learn and study and grow and make hard lefts if I needed to, and go a different direction if it wasn't working, because yoga's about flexibility as well. It's like, there's so many
Right.
principles, right?
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing was that, like, honestly, that class that I mentioned, it is the most memorable yoga class that I have ever been to, because I remember I went to your class and I had been in this tumultuous, like, very I pulled a Britney when I was 22 and I ran off and I got married with a Navy man. Found out that we couldn't get along when he lived halfway across the world, and I was like, "Well, that was a mistake." And he came back and I was, like, trying to work it out, and I remember going to the class because, like, Yoga Blend was a few blocks away from my childhood homes, could walk to it. And I went into the class and it was your class. And there were many times where many of your instructors had said, if you get to the class and you realize that all you need to do is just child's pose for the rest of the class, that's your practice. And as the high performer, the high achiever, the one who's like going, who likes the hard workouts and things, like that was such a revelation that I was like, oh, I had such full permission to take that, to like get in, get on my mat, take that big, full, deep breath. And then I just like was like, bye, rolled up the mat and left, left the class. And there was no judgment. It was like full permission to then like go off and handle what needed to be handled and basically end my relationship with my ex. But that was such you had such a beautiful leadership that you translated into all of your instructors, to where there was such permission to meet yourself where you're at in that day. And I think for high achievers and high performers, sometimes it's really hard because we're constantly measuring ourselves to the standard of which we performed in some other aspect or area. And that's not necessarily true for this season of our life.
That's right. That's right. And that was a big thing for me. We had a blend of styles, and I told all the teachers, I'm like, I want you to be yourself. I don't want you to do copy and paste. I don't want you to do canned, scripts. I want you to teach from your heart. And the thing that I ask, I give you complete freedom. And as well, it's like I give you freedom to teach how you want, as long as you allow people to be where they're at. Like, meet them where they're at, remind them of slowing down, remind them of balancing that go-getter energy, give them permission to just rest if that's what they need. Some people, they need to get pushed and get motivated and let's go, get up, but to really empower the teachers to teach the way they wanted, but always teach from the place of giving people permission, because the last thing I wanted was some dogmatic practice that was like, you got to do this and you got to do that, because it could just create more of an imbalance in us physically, mentally, emotionally, in our relationships. So really giving that permission for people to do something different, because yoga is really contrary action, and it's doing something different, because if we don't like what we're getting, then we got to do something different, and it's like encouraging people and really making it that way where it's like, listen to yourself, learn to listen to what's going on, and learn to give yourself the chance to just slow down and just wait a minute, where are we going? And why are we trying to get there so fast?
Right? Where have you seen in your business the challenge of speed and balancing
Gosh.
it?
Yeah, that is a tough one, especially in the digital age. It's just so much input in a day, and just feeling like I tell people all the time, I am a great friend, but I'm not great at keeping in touch. Like, I'm there if people reach out and they're like, I need you. I'm like, I'm there. What do you need? I will bring you whatever. but just keeping in touch because I always tell me this is a full-time job. Like just trying to keep this organized me is a full-time job. Like trying to keep it organized. Like it's so much capacity that we have to have in order to hold just the day-to-day functioning of what it means to be a human and all the responsibilities we have. And that was for me when everything blew up and I moved home back to my hometown. I was like, well, if I can do this differently, I've got to figure out a way that it's going to take me forward into the next however many years. And I didn't want to hustle the way I'd hustled. I didn't want to go at that pace and to try to keep up with the Joneses. I don't even know who the Joneses are, Kimberly. Why are we trying to keep up with them?
Yeah, seriously, I have never met a Joneses. And I've
Yeah, exactly. Well, who are they? And just that, like, I loved what I did, but I felt under that grind and pressure and just go and do, and there's more and growth and expansion and taking care of myself in the process. So the practices are what saved me. It's what allowed me to have successful businesses or a business. And the one I'm in now is to put myself first and to make self-care a priority, my own practices, because if not, I'm not enjoying the thing I'm doing. And if I'm not enjoying it, what's the point? Because whatever I think I want in the future, I'm going to feel about it the way I'm practicing now.
That is so true. And I know I certainly have wrestled with this belief of like in the future, and it's this idyllic time of when I have that or when I achieve that thing, then I'm gonna feel this way. And that's not how life works. Like then we're constantly chasing something, and by the time we actually are present with it, like then we're off to the next Everest. It's not actually enjoying the climb and the process and the practice of being in that space. Now, you've talked about yoga being a technology and love that language because it reminds me of Greg Braden.
Yeah.
So, when you mean yoga as a technology, how can we leverage it like we, leverage technology in our day to day?
Yeah. Through this 30-year journey, I'm big in the philosophy, the psychology, the physicality of it. And what I've discovered through my own practice and through my own healing is that I always say I'm a teacher for people who don't like yoga or they think they don't. They're like, oh, I don't like yoga. I'm like, wait a minute, you don't like life? Because it's a technology, but because basically I'll sum it up into our entire system internally needs to be cleansed. Just like we take a shower and we don't just take one shower and then we say, okay, I'm good. We clean our body. We have to clean our internal system as well because all kinds of things get jammed up in the system. And so the technology of it is we can use these practices to clean out the pipes, basically, because if we drove around in the mud, we're out four-wheeling, I'm from the South. And we drove around in the mud and we were like kicking up mud and the windshield got all covered with mud. Well, our mind is like that windshield. It's a filter. It's a tool of perception. And a lot of people get confused on the mind's role. And so they're looking out to find the answers. But every time we look out, it's like mud landing on our windshield. No matter what we look at, billboards, other people, social media, television, news, cars, everything is just stimulation, lights. And all of that is like mud landing on the windshield of the mind. Well, the reason I call it a technology is because we turn the mind inward and then we wash all that off and clean through the sound, through the breath, through the poses, through the meditation, through the lifestyle practices. It's all laid out in the sutras, in the yoga philosophy, a technology to go clean the pipes. And because I used to be in satellite engineering, which is crazy, that's a whole nother tangent. It was
So
wild.
wild.
But I learned so much about frequency and signal and being able to get on the right channel before you modulate, before you send out your signal, or you will blow everyone else out. And so we're like little tiny satellites and we need to get our signal clear before we turn out and try to transmit a signal. We have to make sure that the channel is clear.
So true. And especially being electromagnetic beings. And like Nikola Tesla said, like everything is frequency, energy, and vibration. In conscious communities, we're constantly saying like higher vibe and raise your vibration. But like, what does that even mean? And how do you even do that? And I think like, because we can get caught up in almost like the aphorisms or the cliches, but like, what does it actually mean in practice to be able to be with yourself, to be able to clear out the shadows, to recognize them, to do the deeper work that is required to meet yourself where you're at and to like have the courage to actually be present because it does take a ton of courage sometimes when you've been stifling and shoving down negative emotions and hiding and avoiding and escaping and suddenly when you get to that space of having to be present you're like oh I got to now meet all of those things that I've tried to prevent actually seeing within myself.
That's right. That's right. And I love the practice. Don't get me wrong. I love everything about it. It's changed my life, saved my life, shown me things that I didn't want to look at. I tried to run from them. Everything, And in the conscious communities or spiritual communities, there is a lot of the words, the abstractions, a lot of the insight, a lot of the aha moments or the downloads or the deep understanding. But knowledge or insight without integration, it's just thoughts, it's just ether, it's just ideas, it's dreams, it's imagination, it's a magical thinking. We have to take that and do something with it. So when we have that big moment, we have to bring it down into a concrete form, into a concrete, tangible action in order for it to materialize on the material plane. And that's a lot of my work is about matter. Like, how do we make something matter? And a lot of people say things matter. And they say it up here in the higher realms, the higher, like the voice and their thoughts and their meditations, but then they're not caring for it on the physical plane or they're not actually doing the thing. And that causes a misalignment. And in yoga, one of my teachers calls it this, and I loved it. It's crimes against wisdom. And I think that's so brilliant because it's knowing better, but not doing better. And it leads to
Oh,
suffering and disease.
oh my gosh. Yeah, it's one of my other mentors who made me, Adriana James, she said basically like karma, like the law of cause and effect, it's not just about like, oh, doing bad to others and it comes back to you. But it's like when you know better, but you don't do better, when you know what you should be doing. And it could be something as simple like for business owners is like, you need to look at your P&L. Like there's some basic business thing, you got to do your taxes. Like
Yep,
basic things that you should be doing, but if you're not doing them, then they're not actually moving you forward in integrated in the physical plane. And I love that it needs to be integrated and embodied. What have
that's
you
right.
found on your journey was the most toughest bit of wisdom that you had to integrate within yourself as a business owner?
I'll be real honest, my own bullshit. Like, just my own patterns, my own belief systems, my own thought loops about other things, other people, victim mentality, really just my bullshit. That's it. Is I had to take a real hard look at the ways that I was saying one thing and doing something else, knowing better and not doing better, not carving out the time for myself because I got so caught up in the busyness of business or the busy mess of business. If we are not really clear and organized and strategic, then it can feel chaotic. And then we just run and sort of we're chase, trying to keep up. And so I really had to look at my own patterns. And that's what yoga of responsibility is all about. Like, I'm not perfect, but I'm practicing. And if I say I'm practicing, I need to be practicing. If I say that I want these things, then I need to actually act like it, and I always, I always say the best way for people to know if you care is you act like it. You act like you care.
Shocking.
It's shocking. So many people are like, oh, I care about this. I'm like, no, you don't, because you don't do anything about it. Care for it. Care for the matter at hand is like, take care of the thing that matters. And that's what's important to our heart, what has meaning. So I had to look at the things that I said mattered that I wasn't giving the attention and time and care that it actually deserved, and I knew better. And so that was what I had to really reconcile in business. And I grew up, I opened the studio in LA and went from corporate to that. And I was like, okay, here we go. And fortunately, I was at about a decade ahead in my practice than most people that had never practiced yoga. And so I was constantly learning. And that was the whole reason I opened Yoga Blend, was that I wanted a business to fund my education for getting better at the craft that I knew was meant for me. And
Hmm.
it did that. And so, but I had to keep up, I had to because then the business was growing and I'm like, I'm growing. And And I'm learning, and it wasn't perfect, but it was, I mean, it was ultimately perfect, but it was, it was a work in progress, which we are as well. We're works in progress always. And I say that I still make messes, but they're easier to clean up and they leave a lot less collateral damage. And
Less
because
stains.
less stains, and because I take responsibility, people have no problem stepping in to help. And that's what it really is about. It's not about achieving some I never mess up and I'm perfect, but I'm aware of what I did. I handle it. I take responsibility for it. I'm accountable for it. I clean it up. And if I need help, I ask for help. And then I vow to do better, and like, okay, that was something. And that's what I've seen really as a gift is that I've just gotten more graceful at falling and getting back up again and knowing who to ask for support and how to give myself that grace and still be a human on the path because always first and foremost I'm a student regardless of how much I teach.
Yeah, and I think the responsibility conversation is probably one of the harder ones because so many of us, myself included, have had our own victim stories that sometimes even like they still pop up. Like they still pop up and are like, "Oh, here's a little hook into a victim story that but there's still those moments where we realize, but I agree with you is when you recognize and you have more grace and you're able to pivot faster and you're able to recognize and make amends and it's not this big thing that you need that it may be in the past you may have extended the timeline because of escapism or you try to avoid it or you try to go around it and you're not actually fully embodying that responsibility, but when you actually have the practice of continuously daily having that responsibility conversation, it does get easier as you go, but it is a practice, like, and it's not one that's
Is
sexy because it's not one that a lot of people wanna have.
No, and that's the first thing when and there's any kind of conflict, I stop and I'm like, okay, let me look at me. Where am I contributing? Is it in the way that I respond? Is it the way I think? Is it's behaviors am I doing? I'm like, no, I'm participating in whatever's going on. So let me get right with that and then address it. And that has been huge for me is to say, okay, there's something in me that is not of an integrity in some way, shape, or form. Whatever that is, whether it's not setting a clear boundary or allowing things that I shouldn't allow, or that I've set a clear no's for me and saying yes, or where did I have assumptions about something or think a thought, that like I'm contributing in some way, shape, or form. And when I do that and when I reconcile it, whatever is out there that I thought it was gets handled way easier than if I just continue to be like this, that, everything else is the problem. No, the common denominator is me, always. And
Always.
always. And it's not like, oh, I'm bad and I need to be shamed and blamed and all that. It's like, no, I need to be doing everything I can and then I can look outward. But until
Mhm.
then, I need to turn it in and figure out what's going on in me. Where am I not getting enough sleep? Am I not eating the right foods? Whatever it is before I launch into some response, I need to turn it to me and go, okay, what can I do to handle this before I handle it inward before I try to handle it outward?
Yeah, I think learning the principle of like for me, I say that which is conscious manifests happily and that which is unconscious manifests unhappily. And so in doing so, I always look at like if something unhappy is manifesting in my surroundings or in my circumstances, like I look at me first of like, is it my thinking? Is it my belief system? Is it the paradigm or the lens in which I'm looking at the problem? Is that even a problem ultimately? Like, is that
Yeah,
actually a problem or is it how I'm perceiving it being a problem? That
that's
can
right.
sometimes be the challenge of challenging our own paradigms. But talk to me about how can you go into the space of looking at it from personal responsibility instead of having it be shame and guilt and suffering? And because that it seems to me like that is a hard gap because I know I've walked that path of experiencing corrections, mistakes, especially as a high achieving recovering perfectionist.
Yeah,
Like
I hear
the
you.
the shame, the guilt, the suffering that gets created from like, oh my God, I made a mistake. Like, where is that? Where is that? Is that a societal belief system that we're conditioned with as women? Like, how do we strip that away? Because personal responsibility, once you get to the point where you're used to taking it and recognizing, oh, I made a mistake and now there's a small course correction that I need to make. it diffuses it of its power, but oh my gosh, getting away from its clutches of in shame and suffering, that's a fight. At least
Yeah.
what I found in my experience of growth and transformation. How can we more easily strip away that shame that comes from the challenge of taking personal responsibility?
Great question. And you're going to love this answer because it's always the answer I give everyone: practice.
Oh.
It's like, I know, but specifically, like, the part of the movement and the breath and the mindfulness and the meditation and the sound is to clear out those habits of loops of linking with something and getting caught in the spiral, the shame spiral, or the loop of I'm bad. And so, yoga as a practice, one of the sutras says we approach the practice with detachment. We don't approach the practice going, "Oh, I'm going to be enlightened," or "I'm going to get, the great butt," or whatever it is. We don't go in with that expectation. We practice with, dedication and sort of an open-hearted detachment. And as a result of practicing, detachment happens. So it's both and that's what's so beautiful about it, is that we approach it just saying, I trust that this is going to work. I don't know how it's going to work, but I'm going to show up for myself. It's been around for thousands of years. People said it works. I'm going to do it myself. Okay. My teacher said it works. I'm going to try it. I'm going to trust that teacher. So that's a part of it too, is finding someone we trust, whatever it is in business, like the work that you're doing. Find a mentor, find someone that you trust, find someone that has what you want or that you desire, and ask them how they did it, because we don't have to reinvent the wheel. So I think I'm a huge fan of mentors and coaches or whatever, someone that can help us see the things that we can't see, because oftentimes we get caught in our own loops and imbalances and we can't see the spinach in our teeth. And someone can be like, hey, you got something there. Let me just give you some help here. And so that's one piece of it, is because getting trapped, we're always going to lean towards our imbalance, because that's just like energy wants to recreate itself. It has no idea if it's bad or good. It just wants to keep going. And that's part of why we get trapped in these loops. So having someone outside of us and then doing the practices, the movement, the breath, the sound, the mantra, the mindfulness, the lifestyle stuff, the sleep, there's so much, the food that we're eating, there's so much that can send us into a loop. Because if we have a similar feeling from something from the past and we're not using a tool to keep it from looping, it's going to catch the train and start riding down the railway, because that's what's familiar. And our patterns don't ever go away. And that's not to scare us and make us feel like we're always going to be on edge. No, it's they go dormant and they don't disturb us anymore. The more we practice, they lie dormant, but they will pop up if we don't practice, just as a bumper, like, hey, you're drifting, get back on track. Hey, you've drifted, get back on track. So they're not there to punish us. They're to remind us to come back to ourself, back to wholeness. And wholeness is integration in mind, body, breath, thoughts, actions, behaviors, pattern. We got to integrate all of that. And so it's work. And that's ultimately, now, because I teach it and I train other people and, all of that, like, that's why I made it my living to do that full time. Like, my job is to 100% practice full time and to not give my attention to a lot out there, because I know that my lane is to help people come back to themselves. And if I'm constantly leaving myself, it's going to be really hard for me to guide someone back to themselves. And
Ooh,
so,
true.
but because that's my full-time work, so I have to be very, very particular on what I take in and what I give energy to, because I want to be able to help the person that shows up that is feeling like they're looping and they're caught in the stream. And I want to be able to, like, hey, here's still water. Like, let's take a breath together. Let's
Yeah.
breathe. But, it's all of it. But it's one thing at a time too. It's in yoga, it's called vinyasa krama. We're here and we want to be here. And if we try to jump up here, we're just going to fall and crash and burn and feel real bad about ourselves. Shame, 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 shame. And then we're like, okay, I'm here again. Now I'm going to try to jump up here. And then I fall down. Shame, shame. Because we can't sustain that level of change. So vinyasa krama is we take a little bit and we stay there a while, get good at it, make it part of who we are. And then we add a new practice. And then we stay there a while, get good at it, make it part of who we are. We add a practice, we get good at it, stay, and then eventually we're like, hey, I'm here, and then we set anew and we continue that climb. But so often, because we're in information overload, information is outpacing wisdom. It's just more, 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 more. And people are leaping up into information and then they're crashing into the shame and guilt because I should know better because it makes sense. Well, it can make sense, but if it's not embodied, you can't sustain it. It doesn't have weight, gravity, matter. It doesn't like have an impact. So we have to get away from the information and back into integration, one thing at a time. And maybe it starts with one meal a week or, just practices that start to help us to get beyond old patterns and to establish new ones. And then they become the dominant operating system.
You just described exactly how my coaching has been for the past decade, which is so interesting because in the coaching world, especially in business and high performance, there is a belief system of like get them into a renewal, constant coaching, and I've never been about that. I've I'm like my goal is for you not to need me. Like
Yeah.
my goal is we help you ascend, work together for a short time, and then you sustain on that level. And then
Yes.
when you're ready to work together again, we then grow together again. Like our clients will typically go through our Queen Business like curriculum, will go through private coaching, whether it's for 3 months or 12 months, and then they'll sustain for like 3 to 6 months, some of them 12 months, and then they'll come back and they'll work with us again. But that experience, and it's because I don't believe in the constant, like the practice, yes, but the sustainability of learning how to sustain at that new level that you just grabbed onto in essence. Like, how can you sustain the practices at that level for where you want to go? And I love that now, like, I now know that that's a yoga.
See, I know. And, I was listening to your podcast. I'm like, she's such a yogi. Such a yogi. I mean, so many of the things you say, because when we get down to it, it sounds like common sense, but it's not so common because we've been sort of thrown up into the information age and everyone talking, 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 and there's not a lot of doing. And there's so much outward, we're outsourcing our power and outsourcing our sovereignty and outsourcing our energy and attention to everything out there. The wires are getting crossed. And, you're talking about the coaching model. I agree. Like I say all the time, I had one child for a reason. I want one dependent. That's it. That's it. No more dependence. And my goal is to empower people and I want to be a resource. And so many people I've worked with will work with me for a long time and then they'll go and do their own thing and then come back and check in quarterly or, get a month refresh. And that's the way I work too, because I want to empower people because then I want to help other people.
Mhm.
There's other people that need help. So it's like getting people to a place where they can sustain. And then I'm here if you need me, but I don't want you to need me. But I'm here if you do, right? Like it's both and. It's like I want to set you on your own, but I also want to be here when you need support and guidance and reflection. So that's very much the same because we want to empower people. And I know that's what you do as well. And
Mhm.
it's beautiful. We want people to feel they have support when they need it, but also that they can do it on their own.
Yeah, because I am not a fan of this codependent coaching model that has been built into the industry. And it's interesting because one of my mentors, she said that, basically the personal development industry is as much as we want to develop, like it doesn't want you to necessarily get better because you got to always be developing versus like what happens with like when we can actually have personal acceptance of like where we are at is perfect and right for exactly where we're supposed to be. Because if we're supposed to be somewhere else, we'd be there.
Right, right. Exactly. Exactly. And a big part of that, is just start where you are. Start where you are. Like one thing, change one thing that's not working and just refine that. Get good at it. Don't try to just stack all these changes in your life because you'll just end up in that place of feeling not good enough and the shame, which was the original question of like spiraling into I'm a failure and I'm this and that. Well, that's because you tried to add 10 things. And first of all, your energetic system can't handle it, but also your schedule and your partner and your kids and your friend can't handle it. If you're like changing everything overnight, it just becomes like this disruption in your life. And we have the motivation and the energy high, we can do it for a few weeks. And then we crash because it's not long-term sustainable. And that's the big part of just one step at a time, one step at a time. Take a few things. Like don't try to do the whole thing. And that's one of the big things is a lot of people, when they work with me, they're like, oh my God, I see so many things I want to change. I'm like, but don't resist the temptation.
Changing everything all at
Yeah.
once and up leveling your entire life. And and yet there are times like 2020 and 2021 where a lot of upheaval happens and it kind of
Yeah.
happens all at once.
Yeah.
How do you honor the practice of changing the small things when everything big seems to be changing all at once?
Boy. All right, Queen. So my whole entire existence ruptured in 2020. And it was, wow. I look back and I'm like, I am grateful to be here now. I'll just say that because it was an ego death, an identity crisis. Like it was just grief in every way. It was my community, like my friends, my home, my business, my finances, my lifestyle, my healers, like everything that I had built for 15 years was now gone. And I was like, eh. And I knew ultimately, because I could see the writing on the wall after a few months of being closed down, I was like, okay, this isn't sustainable. I've already dumped my life savings into this. And I have an aging mother at home. My son had been going back and forth to LA, all the whole time. His dad was here in Tennessee. So I was like, all the writings on the wall. And it was so hard for me to let go. It was so hard for me to let go. And I just knew that it was not sustainable. Looking back, I'm glad. I mean, it was like 14 months. I think yoga studios were closed. I mean, I was already
Yeah.
drowning in 3 months. So I was like, but when everything changed at once, I mean, I went through it. Like, to be honest, I went dark. Like, it went real dark. And not that I was ever arrogant. I was always so grateful for the practice, but I did actually think that there was no way I could go to the mental, emotional capacity I was before I discovered yoga. Like, I didn't think that because of all I've learned and all the people I've trained and all the years and years, I mean, at that point, it'd been 24 years, 25 years of yoga. I didn't think I could go back to my early 20s before I discovered yoga in my mental, emotional state. And I was like, oh boy, but it was almost worse because I had all the knowledge. And so I lived in that for a while, and and huge upheavals when everything changes like that. It is massively dysregulating. And I just didn't know which way was up and which way was down, and the world didn't either. So that didn't help. And one of the things I had to do was just go silent for a while. I just had to take a step back.
1 second. Beautiful. So you ended up going back into a place that was like who you had been before yoga. And on top of it had all the knowledge of so did you find yourself should shaming you of like, I should know better?
Yeah. Oh, I was lost in the should spiral for sure. Because I was like, I know better. Like, what's wrong? And I just kept slipping. I would get some motivation. And I mean, it was like, I felt like I was in quicksand. Like, I just would get a little bit ahead and then I would just dig deeper down. I was like, oh no. And then get a little bit ahead and then dig deeper down. And so I had to go in. And at that point, I stopped teaching I mean, I was teaching a little bit like online and a little bit here and there, but I was like, I gotta take care of this. Like, I gotta teach me right now. Like, I can't, there's no way I can help on the scale that I was helping people. I've got to use everything I know to do to turn it towards myself. And that's what I did. And slowly, just started meeting people. And I knew that regardless of it all, I knew I could build community because that would not only support other people coming back, from a devastating shakeup that happened. I could build community that would help other people feel a sense of belonging, and it would help me. It would help me to come back to what's basic, just meeting people, getting our feet on the ground, getting outside, moving our bodies, like not really teaching on a deep level, like of teacher trainings the way I was, but just getting back to the basics, really basic stuff, gardening, just being outside, caring for the simple things, animals, children, plants. That was like really, it was kind of that, okay, I'm at the really baseline of what it means to be a human right now. And so if I can grow my own food, if I can bring people together to just dance on the land and, do things like that, then maybe that'll help me. And it did, it did help me to start to get a sense of where I was in time and space again and to get myself upright. And that took a couple years. Like it was dark.
Deeply resonate because 2021, losing 3 family members and 2 family
Mm.
friends, having a second baby and moving countries was like so much upheaval happened in the moment. Like I look back and my second son, like I don't remember 2 years of his life
Mhm.
just because I was in the doing of just like, we just gotta do
Yeah.
because there were things that just needed to be done that just had to be done. And so being able to like, as much as I am what like did my best to be present, I'm still like my little man. I just look back at that time and like there was so much. And it took a couple years to go through grief, to go through the process of recalibrating who I am amidst all of it was sometimes it was like almost like guardrails got completely removed in a way.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they got enforced. So like you're like, who am I in this amorphous space? And how am I recreating myself from this like just fire of destruction of who I was? I think that 2020, 2021 was such an initiation for so many people. When
Agreed.
you think of what you've created now and who you've become, what is the greatest 1 or 2 lessons that you can say you gleaned from that experience, that from the fire, in essence, of initiation?
Yeah, I will say that that's where the yoga of responsibility was born because I realized, I mean, I'd be crying at the creek and just like, help, help. And what I realized is that no one's coming to save me, that I'm going to have to take full responsibility for my own thought patterns, my own behaviors, my own practices. Like, I'm going to have to be the one to show up for myself. And that doesn't mean we don't rely on other people and we don't ask for help. That's not what I'm saying. But just how am I contributing to the chaos of the world? That was really the question I had to ask myself. Not that I caused a pandemic, but what part of me is contributing and participating in the energy of blame and shame and pointing and all of that that was happening? I had to just like get right with me and shut her down. Like, don't look. I couldn't really look outside because it was just so distorted. Like, people became a different person overnight. And I just was blown away by all these things that I had watched and looked at. Now we're just crumbling. Everything, the whole time I was like, I got to hug the midline. Just don't get caught in the extremes. Don't get caught in the highs and lows, because that's what yoga ultimately is, a practice of being able to find steadiness and ease in all of the highs and lows. And so it started to go, okay, where are you, staying up too late? Where are you falling into addictive patterns? Where are you not doing your practice? Where are you not, taking responsibility for the way you're thinking, the way you're speaking, all of that. And that's where it was born, from that churning of the ashes of just picking up the rubble of my life and going, where's the gold? Like, what are the pieces I can take forward? And the rest, I'm just going to have to let it go. And that hustle culture, all the things I had done. And it was just gone. And so I was like, okay, well, let's just start over, take full responsibility for how you show up, the way that you're moving, the way that you're breathing, the way that you're thinking about someone, the way that you're thinking about yourself. Like, that's all ultimately up to you. And so it was, that's where it came from. And what healed me ultimately is to stop waiting for things to change, because the world is just wild. It's just
Wild.
chaos and asteroids, like it's just, and I was like, I cannot be looking outside because I will continue to suffer if I'm looking outward, because that's not stable out there. It's not stable. And if I turn towards me, okay, well, I'm not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but there's been one person, I don't, or whatever you want to call it. There's one thing that's been with me the whole entire time, and that's me. I'm the only one that's been with me the whole entire time. So that one's the most reliable. Obviously, maybe not
Mhm.
making the best decisions or whatever, that doesn't matter, but the only one that's been with me the whole entire thing and has witnessed the entire journey from birth till now is me, so I might wanna start turning towards that and stop looking outside. and take full responsibility for the way I'm showing up and the way that I'm not showing up. And it was just a churning through that and to get real clear that I'm in charge of my own life. And yes, there are things outside of me I can't control, but I better start looking at everything that I can, every single piece of it. And
Hmm.
that's what built one brick by one brick, just like my dad built this house, brick by brick. I had to rebuild myself brick by brick, you know?
Yeah. And it's that being able to take responsibility for each thought, each belief system, because we're so conditioned to
So
have blame
yes.
and to look externally for a savior outside of ourselves and to look for a solution outside of ourselves, even to the point where it is looking for a guide or a guru or a mentor. And yet, ultimately, mentors are mirrors
That's
and
right.
they allow us to see parts of ourselves. And I just want to thank you for being such a mentor and a guide for me for so many years to allow me to heal and grow through a lot of trauma
Mhm.
that you may not have even known that I was going through. Every lesson, every time I got on the mat with you or any of your teachers that you had was such a gift to be able to walk that practice and shift. And to know that also it's like we got to stop putting our mentors on pedestals
That's
because
right.
we all are human and we all have our dark moments of the ego when things come crumbling down. We all have had those moments of needing to rebuild, and just hearing your story and what you went through and who you've become through the process. And my favorite thing is how much joy you have now. Like the joy, the level of fun and the permission that you give but like never needed to be given. Just enjoy your life. Enjoy and create the life and the community and have the people around you that you want to create. Thank you so much for being a part of my journey.
My pleasure and my heart. That just like that's it. That's why I opened Yoga Blend. I mean, you just said literally the why of because of the way it helped my life. I'm like, I just want to share this with people because maybe there's someone out there like me that could use someone to go, hey, because that's what my teacher did for me. Like, try this and to give them an opportunity to take that deep breath and go, wait, what do I want? How do I want to be feeling? So it's literally why I opened Yoga Blend to begin with. It's like I just want to help people be able to reclaim their life and find purpose, their meaning, their boundaries, their strength, their confidence, their breath, their health, whatever it is that they need to feel better. And that's it. And I love teaching because it always teaches me every
Mm.
single time because I'm being of service. I'm using my education and knowledge and wisdom, and it also is a mirror for me.
Same, queen. On the other side, there are some coaching sessions. Like I was just in one yesterday with a client, and I was like, "Damn, I need that lesson for myself."
I need to hear everything I just said. Yeah, wow. Oh, that was humbling.
And it's one where we're like, "Oh, I got to put that into practice quickly so I can stay in integrity with
Yes.
my own work." I have loved our conversation, Christy, and I would love to jump into a little bit of rapid fire if you're
Okay,
ready.
great. Let's go.
Let's do it. Who is your favorite character in a book or a movie, and why?
Ooh,
Fictional.
gosh. Fictional. Gosh. I've read so many books, like I probably thousands. And movies, like I always say, I have movie amnesia. I'll love it, watch it, see it, love it, have a great time. And then as soon as it's over, I'm like, filed away. And so, but I'll just say this because me and my son talk about it a lot is in Hunger Games, Katniss Everdeen. Yeah. Just that character of like when things are so bleak to like be like, really? I don't really want to be the one to do this, but okay, somebody got to do it. And I resonate with that because it's like, she didn't want to be a hero. She just was like, well, this is what needs to be done, you know? And so often, like, people are like, you just do that? Like, you just opened an academy for kids? Like, what, you just did this? I'm like, well, somebody needed to do it, you know? And so I really appreciate that character and what she stands for because my son and I resonate over that and we'll talk about, he loves the Hunger Games. So I think that would be it.
I love it. My kids are too young for the Hunger
Yeah,
Games.
yeah, yeah. I
I'm
don't
so
recommend
excited to introduce them when they're ready.
when they're ready. Yeah, exactly.
What is your money routine as a business owner?
So the money routine is that regardless whether I want to or not, every couple of days I go in, I do my bookkeeping. I make sure I know exactly what's going, where and get everything tagged, move stuff to the savings, move stuff into, I try to be very strategic in that a little bit always goes into savings, and the bills and organize and then budget, for, okay, what do I want to bring in this month? And, I'm taking care of my, mom who's got a lot of health issues and handicapped, and then also my son, I'm in that sandwich generation. So it's like
Same.
yeah, it's like a lot, and so it's like, okay, how can I budget where I can have time? Like, I budget my time, and, alright, how many clients am I willing to take on, and how much am I willing to record a video? How much am I willing to, teach a course or whatever it is, take on a private. So I do that every week to go, okay, I don't need to hustle and make myself at this stage in life. I need to be available for the people that need me the most. And so I really try to stay on top of just knowing exactly how much is coming in and then knowing exactly what I want for the next month and then scheduling my life with this is the kind of business that would generate that kind of income so that I can spend a lot of time with my son and my mother and doing all the things. Because I'm his chauffeur right now because he's 16.
Oh my
Just
16?
I know, just
My
turned last
god.
week, just last
Oh
week.
my gosh.
Seems
I remember when you just had him.
I know, it's wild. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, the whole community at Yoga Plan, they were part of that whole journey, So, yeah, 16 years old.
Oh my goodness. What do you define to be your queendom?
My queendom, oh, wow. I would say it's my friendships that I really feel like I have a royal court of high integrity, high level, deep, reflective, funny. Oh my gosh, some of the funniest people I've ever met in my life. And so my queendom is being surrounded because I don't get to see my friends a lot because I'm just busy working and momming and, taking caretaking and growing. But my queendom is when I'm with them and I can just fully be Christy Lynn Hicks, Southern rowdy, just playful. Laughter is my medicine. And that was something actually when you asked earlier that helps us process shame is laughter.
Mm.
The more that we can laugh, the more that we burn up the old, we digest the undigestible, the things that we didn't digest. So my queendom is when I have the permission just to be and not be in charge and know that I've done everything I need to do. I've done good work in all directions and I can just play with my friends and laugh and have deep philosophical conversations and dress up in costumes and play loud bass music and dance. That's really where I feel like yes, it's like that the dessert, of all my hard work.
Oh, I love it. Lastly, what does it mean to crown yourself
Mm.
for you?
For me, that means to not apologize for being me, to step into my power fully, take full responsibility, and really step up and share with the world and give them empowering tools and make a difference, make an impact, and do it with grace, do it with love, do it with kindness, and do it with some rowdy Southern humor.
Love it. Let's get rowdy. Where can we find you? How can we work with you? Continue our practice of yoga in mind, body, spirit, or physically in
Yeah. Yeah,
Mount
and I still do the physical too, for sure. But I just put all the others. So yogaofresponsibility.com is my website. It has everything. The programs I'm doing, it has the link to Elevation Central. It has this Roll Me, which is it's going to be a 10 module format, but the 5-day reset is a simple, quick sort of introduction to the work. That's on my website. Explains the framework. You can sign up for my newsletter there, my speaking page. I mean, it's all there on Yoga of Responsibility. And for the Crown Yourself Queens, if anybody wants to do that 5-day reset, I have a $50 discount and it's Crown Yourself if you want to do the 5-day reset. It's a reliable me. It's a 5-day program, introduces the work. So you crown yourself, all caps. If anybody wants to sign up for that, then they're able to do that.
Thank you so much, Christy. I know my
Yeah.
audience will just eat that up. I am so grateful to you for doing that. Thank you for your years of dedication and practice and the devotion that you have had to the practice of being that reflection, of being that mirror and building a legacy of conscious responsibility because truly have the practice and you are practicing and you're the embodiment and integrating of self-leadership and encouraging and modeling the way for so many, myself included. And I just want to thank you for coming on the Crown Yourself podcast. As always, my fellow sovereigns, own your throne, mind your business, because your reign is now. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If what you heard resonated with you, be sure to subscribe and start creating a bigger impact now by sharing this with a friend. Just by doing that one simple act of kindness, you are creating a royal ripple to support more people in their sovereignty. And if you're not already following on social media, connect with me everywhere at crownyourself.now for more inspiration. I am so excited to connect with you in the next episode. And in the meantime, go out there and create a body, business, and life that rules. Because today, you crown yourself.